I'm super excited to get started with this session. We've got a lot of really great data in our report. And just to get the session started, I would love to learn a little bit more about what you're looking to get out of today's session and how much of your traffic you estimate to be bot traffic today. So I'm going to hit launch on the poll. You should see that pop up. And just take a second and fill in these two quick questions. Let us know a little bit more what you're hoping to get out of the session. And today, if you're managing a site, how much do you estimate coming from bots? And if you have no idea, that's okay. That's an option too. Again, we're here to learn together. And I'll give that maybe 30 more seconds. If you're just filtering in, please feel free to take part of the poll. This is really fun to watch come in because I'm seeing the live results. I'm seeing a lot of people wanting practical advice on managing bots on their site, seeing a lot of learning more about bot traffic trends and data, which is perfect. We've got
Hmm.
lots of that today. If we want to learn more
Yes.
about Kinsta's bot protection tools, also great. And we're seeing a little bit more of a closer split between how much of your site's traffic you estimate coming from bots today. So 10 to 30%, we're looking at 30% of the attendees. 30 to 50% of traffic is bought from about 32, more than 50%. We're seeing 22% of people saying more than 50% of their traffic is estimated to come from bots, and 15% no idea. That's okay. Okay, I'm gonna hit end poll and then we're gonna get started. Thanks for taking part of that first one. Okay, so a couple quick things before we get started. This session is being recorded, so no need to take notes. If you don't want, you'll get the replay in your inbox. Use the Q&A panel for discussion or for questions. Add them in whenever in the session. We will try to get to as many as we can at the end. I'm going to do one more poll during the session. Please click in. It's super quick, and we would love to hear a little bit more about what your experiences are with bots today. We have the session booked for about 45 minutes. We'll do our very, very best to respect your time. And I think that's it for housekeeping items. Let's get into it. So first, some quick introductions. Today, I am joined by an all-star crew at Kinsta. Daniel Pataki, our Chief Technology Officer. Christina Scanapiago, Head of Content. Joel Olawanle, Technical Editor. And I'm Kate Orchard, Product Marketing Manager at Kinsta. And of course, no appearance by product marketing would ever be complete without talking about one of Kinsta's latest and greatest features. Usually, we like to leave these announcements to the very end, but of course, too good to wait. And I already kind of talked about this a little bit in the poll. And that is our bot protection. Bot protection provides environment level controls to manage automated traffic hitting your sites. This session isn't a product walkthrough, but what you're going to hear today is the thinking and the data behind why we built it. Okay, let me click that off. There we go. All right, Daniel, over to you.
All right. Thanks, Kate. What I want to talk about is over the past years, we've seen a growing concern from customers and site owners in general about bot traffic. So, we hear the same things over and over. Bot traffic is a concern when it comes to cost, it's a concern when it comes to site performance, and analytics gets a bit wonky because of all of the bots. So, we took it upon ourselves to do something because this is causing site owners to feel powerless, and that is not a feeling I would like a customer or anyone to have. So the first thing that we did is address the cost component. We know that's top of mind, and I really want customers to be able to focus on the success of their website as opposed to the cost. So we did this by making sure that customers do not need to pay for known bot traffic. And we also made sure that customers can choose between visit and bandwidth-based plans. So you can take a look at which one would be financially more beneficial to you and just go with that one. So the remaining pain points are resource issues or resource strain and analytics. So we solved both of those with bot protection because we're giving you a slew of tools to control essentially how many bots can hit your website. So there's a main control that allows you flexibility in that. And there's also like sub controls where you can go and modify things like if you don't want AI crawlers at all on your website, or if you want to make sure that WordPress automation tools remain enabled because you don't want your website to stop working. And there's also custom controls where you can customize and make exceptions based on IP and user agents and so on. So the next thing I really want to talk about is where I see bot traffic today, where I think it's going. But before I get into that, I'd also love to hear from you. So we have another poll where you should see that pop up soon, I think. And what we'd like to know is for you to share what type of traffic is causing the most issues for you and where are you feeling most the impact of automated traffic. And I'll pause for a minute and I wanted to get a drink while that happens, but I forgot to bring a drink for myself. So I will have to forego that. Although I guess I could pop up within a minute, but pop out within a minute, but I will not. Also, don't forget that we have a Q&A, so if you want to submit questions to that as well, please do so. We'll get to that at the end.
Okay, lots of great answers rolling in already. Seeing AI crawlers are causing the most problems for you right now, but 37%. Can you guys see the results as this is happening, or is
I
it just
cannot,
me?
and I'm super
Okay.
interested.
Okay. We're seeing about 26% say SEO scrapers, 39% say spam slash form abuse bots, 18% DDoS or brute force attacks, and 36% say I'm not sure.
Okay.
Where you're feeling the most impact of automated traffic most. 39% are saying site performance and load times, which is definitely something we're hearing.
Hmm.
29% say server cost and resource usage. 26% say skewed analytics, 3% SEO, and 3% security risks. It looks
Hmm.
like we're slowing down on the participation rate. I'll give it a couple more seconds here. Okay, I think that looks like max participation. I'm going to end that poll right there. All right, Daniel, back to you.
Gotcha. Thank you. So I'll continue by sort of giving my take on the landscape today and where I think it's going. So I think it's important to understand that 43% of HTML traffic is human, which means bots have surpassed us as the first citizens on the web, and AI is contributing to this, but actually it's not the majority. The AI component is increasing and it's increasing at a pretty high rate, but Joel will give you some more info on that. But for now, it's still the sort of classic bots that are dominating here. So it's also important to know that we've been dealing with bots since the dawn of the internet, essentially, and I think that's mostly okay. So why they can be frustrating in many cases, like they are today, and they can be malicious for sure. But we also have to concede that they are what make the web, by and large, a useful place, and they do contribute a lot to website success. So it really is a double-edged sword, and because of this, the answer is not as simple as allow bots or block bots. So what is also making this difficult today is that bots are evolving yet again. So if you look at like classic bots like Google bots, they identify themselves by and large, especially the big ones, they will follow conventions like robots.txt. They rate limit themselves. Their behavior is well understood, which means that they can be, easily controlled on the site end. So entering the world of AI, things are sort of flipping upside down. And most AI crawlers, especially the ones from larger companies like Anthropic, Google, and Microsoft, they have no ill will towards websites. They actually kind of want to help, but in the process of this help, they are also causing significant issues. And that's because they are ingesting massive amounts of data. And they are also trying to go really quickly, which means that they are introducing bugs and they're introducing inefficiencies like redirect loops and such. And Christina will tell you a bit about this in just a second. But this is really the issue that we're sort of concerned with right now, this inefficiency. It's not malicious or anything. Um, so zooming out to the larger view, is this good? Is this bad? What's going to happen here in the future. I wish I had a crystal ball, so I don't know what the future is, but my job is to think 3, 5, 10 years ahead. And here's where I've sort of landed. There has been a discussion whether or not AI tools are useful. And I think that the discussion on that, like the ship has sailed, AI is useful. Many people are using it, including myself. The discussion has turned more towards how useful it is. And I don't think AI is a silver bullet. I don't think it's a, magic solution to all our problems, but I do think that it's legitimately useful. So What this means for me personally and for many people that I know is I've replaced Google searches in my workflow, like, or at least 80% or so of it. And I usually use Claude, but I'm more using AI tools to base my research, or at least to get my first influx of research because it's just faster. And then I'd go through the same sort of workflow to verify and work with it. Um, so this so this is also driving AI traffic. And another part, which I think is already sort of taking off, but I think it's going to be far more prevalent in the future, is agentic traffic. And agentic traffic is basically an AI agent doing things on your behalf on the internet. And I don't just mean reading websites, it would be taking action. So right now it's easy-ish to get some helper on your phone and maybe create a Google task or something like that. But in the future, I think this will spread out to the web. So, for example, you will be able to purchase things through Claude. And I would personally love to do this. I buy baby food and water. So, and it's a relatively simple process, right? But I do need to go through the 5 minutes of actually getting it done. So instead, I just tell Claude to do it. And it's relatively simple because I can give easy directives. So I always need the same baby food. That if the price goes up by $2, I still need that baby food. For water, though, I don't really care. I just, cheapest option is fine. And Claude will take care of that. And the technology for doing all of that actually exists. And the technology for doing the purchasing part has existed for a long while in the form of APIs. What's changing now is MCP servers will be hand created, but those also will use APIs in the back end, I think. Um, what has changed is the technology that enables you to do this conversationally very easily. So I think that this is going to be a trend, and we will see more of this. And the reason scraping will not stop anytime soon, although I think eventually it will get better, is that a lot of the scraping is needed for the foundations of this. So especially if you're an e-commerce site owner, this is a very important thing to keep your eyes on because this might be at least part of the future of purchasing. So I think it's super important to sort of prepare, and the best preparation is to sort of understand exactly what we're doing right now is to understand the landscape of bot traffic. And Christina is here to tell us a little more about that, and I will pop up later for the Q&A session. So Christina, over to you.
Thanks, Daniel. Yeah, to back up a little bit into the inception of our report, if you've ever looked at your traffic recently and thought these numbers do not make sense to me, you're not imagining it. That was the real motivation behind this report. We wanted to make sense of these strange patterns that we previously couldn't make sense of. And most reports out there on bot traffic cite third-party benchmarks, which are useful, but it's not their traffic. We turn to our own infrastructure. And then Joel on our team took the idea and built it into a full research project. And I want to set the table a little bit and introduce you to what we found. Since every request that hits a Kinsta hosted site flows through our servers, we could look at exactly what was happening at a platform scale. We went to our own DevOps team and we pulled more than 10 billion requests straight from our infrastructure logs. We layered in support ticket patterns, some third-party data, and outside perspectives. So here we really weren't estimating. We were measuring from the inside. This is what we found. About a year ago, 1 in 200 web visits was an AI bot. Today, it's 1 in 31. So we all know it's not a slow-moving trend. E-commerce sites get hit hardest, 25 billion bot requests in just 2 months, the highest of any industry. And then for WooCommerce stores especially, AI bots can consume up to 70% of dynamic infrastructure resources. So cart, checkout, search, every one of these hits requires PHP execution and a database query. And as you know, we talked about, these crawlers don't buy things, but they are using the resources of someone who might. And then the result is what you're seeing: inflated analytics, performance degradation, costs that are really hard to explain. And the most surprising part, and Daniel touched on this a little bit, is that most of these bots are not malicious. They're broken. AI crawlers are designed to follow every single link they find. So on a simple static site, that's totally fine. But WordPress sites, especially WooCommerce stores, generate slightly different URLs for essentially the same page, a cart link with quantity, color, size, a calendar page with a sort order. To my eyes, to your eyes, it's the same page. To a bot following URLs, each one looks brand new. So it follows the first link and every single variation after. It doesn't know that it's just traveling in loops. For example, our team spotted one repeating loop pattern, built a rule to catch it, and that single rule filtered 550 million requests in 30 days. That means one bot hit add to cart URLs 3.75 million times in 24 hours. That's one request every 23 milliseconds, all day, all night, each one treated by the server as a new request it has to handle. That is some tough math, and it's what's behind the performance issues and the bills that don't make sense. So I would like to hand it over to Joel now, who's going to get into exactly why this behavior is so expensive and what you can do about it.
Thanks, Christina. So I'm just going to get into that part. And one thing I would like to say first is when you hear bot traffic, it sounds like a security problem. But like Daniel said, and like Christina buttressed, at the infrastructure level is more of a resource problem. I'm going to explain why. So let's start with the basics, which is like the foundation for everything else. We have two types of requests, depending on the page being hit. So say it be a static page, you have things like your home page, your blog post page, an about page. When any request hits these pages, your server returns a cached copy. This is usually fast, cheap, and barely any work is done, even if it's like in large proportion. Then we have like the dynamic pages, like your WooCommerce cart page, your checkout flows, filtered product pages, even search result pages. There's no cache result, no cached copy to return like static pages. So the server has to process every request from scratch every single time, regardless of who or what is asking. And so, but when I say process every request from scratch, it sounds normal, but there are three things happening behind the scene. First, you have your PHP worker, which at Kingston will refer to as PHP thread. Your PHP worker gets reserved for the full duration of the request. Then we also have your database query, which runs to get data from your database. Then if it's a cart or say a checkout page, a session gets created and also gets validated. Now, your server does all of this behind the scene, whether the visitor be a real customer that is about to spend money, or whether it be a bot that just crawls the page and will or may never come back. So one thing you should know, or you already know, is that PHP workers, like we say PHP threads, they are unlimited. So I like to think of them like baristas. You have a fixed number on a shift. So each one handles one order at a time. So when a real customer walks in, if all your baristas are tied up attending to bots, then that real customer has to wait. And under sustained bot traffic, under sustained bot load, like Christina described, the customer will have to wait for a while your PHP workers are being tied down by bots. That's what leads to problems like slow load times, unexplained performance drop, and all of that. I have an illustration to like kind of drive this home better. So to show you the difference between a static and a dynamic request at the server level. So when a request comes in via a client, it hits a PHP worker. Now, if no cache exists, we fetch the data from, if cache exists, we take the first part on the left and a static page is returned. Now, if no cache exists, the first thing we get to do is we get the data from the database, we generate the HTML page, and then the PHP worker returns it. Now, that's two different costs entirely. When your bots hit dynamic URLs, the PHP workers are always taking the expensive part on the right. And this ties them down longer. And it means that real visitors start queuing, which is actually like expensive. Now that you understand why this is actually expensive, the way to think about bots depends on what you're actually running because the exposure isn't the same across site types. For example, like we've said over and over, for a WooCommerce site, for your e-commerce site, your highest risk endpoints are like your add to cart URLs, your checkout pages, your wish list actions. Now, these are your most expensive pages per request. Now, when your site feels slow and you suspect it's caused by bots maybe armoring your site, then you may want to attach protection to these endpoints. So you may want to like guard your site because at the moment, bots gain nothing from your checkout page. But like Daniel was trying to say, maybe in the agentic era, now this could be something that is really like very necessary. But for now, your server does all the work, serves those pages, and yeah, it could become very expensive. Now, but for a content site, say a blog site, an art site, they are usually more cacheable. So the per request cost is lower. But you may experience volume and scraping problems instead. So in that case, you may not want AI training crawlers ingesting everything on your site. Then you may want to take actions carefully. And then if you're like maybe managing agencies, let's say you're an agency that is managing so many sites, tens to hundreds of sites, the challenge is that every site type has different exposure profile. So what matters on an e-commerce site is totally different from what matters on a content site, and it's totally different from what matters even on a staging environment or even maybe an AI ad site. So you may need to carefully apply rules so you don't block important bots like maybe the Google bots from seeing your site, like Daniel pointed out earlier. So as a key takeaway, I'm going to say that not every site needs to act today. So if you are not seeing performance issues, unexplained cost spikes, or maybe PHP worker exhaustion, then you may be fine. But your response at every time should always match what you are experiencing. So in our report, we put together like a decision framework exactly for situations like this. So whether you are just getting started, whether you are dealing with something active right now, or you're thinking long term, then the framework would give you an idea on what to do. But Kate is going to share the link later. But so we get into questions, I'm just going to hand over to Kate. Yeah.
Kate, you're muted.
Classic. Thank you.
Yeah.
Perfect. So take a moment to add any Q&A questions that you have into the Q&A panel. It should be at the bottom of your screen. I've seen a couple pop in, but I mean, first I have a quick one just to hand over to Daniel. If I had to do one thing tomorrow to start managing bot traffic better, what would it be?
Oh, okay. So I'll try and keep it under like 40 minutes. So I truly think that the best thing to do depends if you're having an issue right now, kind of like Joel said. Like if you are experiencing a problem on your website because of bots, block them temporarily even, but you need to get your site under control because that is your project. It might be your livelihood. It's extremely important to make sure that stays healthy. If that is not happening right now, I would argue that the best thing to do is to learn as much as possible about the AI tools that are driving this uptick. I do see a lot of folks fear the AI bot traffic, and in many cases, it's a warranted fear. Like it is causing problems. But also, I don't want fear driving decisions that might impact site success later down the line. So what I would do, and this is also what I did a year and a half ago, is learn as much as I could about, are these tools useful? Why are they being used? What utility do they provide to the people using them? Because if the internet is moving towards a way where Google searches will become a smaller part of the internet and it's going to be AI tools, that is the way the world will turn. And there's not a lot we can do about that. So being prepared for that with our websites is the best thing to do. But if you are having a problem right now, I think blocking traffic is a very valid way to respond. And I also do want to acknowledge that like different sites have different needs. Even if you're not like if you're running a blog that is promoting content where AI is specifically not the focus, like for example, you work in an art studio and you want to focus on the fact that there's no AI involved, that is a legit reason to block AI crawlers and stuff like that. So there's a lot of paths forward here. I suggest because I don't think there's a global scale emergency here, learning as much as you can first.
Love
Oh,
it.
can I interject something to myself?
Of course you
Because
can.
I realized I forgot to mention something. I was looking at my notes. I should have been looking at my notes during, but I realized I didn't explain where I think the actual traffic pattern might end up. So I think the AI, at least the AI traffic pattern, I think will get better. And I think the reason it will get better is that right now, what they're doing is very inefficient. And the large companies behind this don't care because they want to move fast. They're in their research and development phase. Making money is not a concern to them right now. But I think we already see the trend in that shifting because the AI tools are becoming more expensive to use. And eventually we'll get to a consolidation phase where because it's costing so much money, they will want to make these bots efficient. So they will stop showing bugs. They will stop getting stuck in redirect loops because it is costing them a lot of money. So I think from that point of view, things will get a little, we need to weather the storm a little bit, but I think it is going to get better.
Fabulous. Okay, I've got a question. We've been using the bot protection feature since it launched. It's great. Thank you.
Awesome.
Our error log isn't being filled with bad requests, and our 404 log is a little lighter. Are you considering a bot protection setting where we can customize what's being blocked or challenged?
Oh, interesting. Right now, I can't answer that, but I can promise you that I will take it to our product team and we will discuss it though.
The great thing about having bot protection in a beta phase is we're learning a lot too as
Exactly.
we
Yeah.
go. Yeah. So the more we kind of hear about more real world usage, the stronger.
Exactly. Our job is to react in the way that is most useful to our customers. So absolutely.
Okay. Here's a great question. Is bot protection just the super bot fight mode from Cloudflare?
No. So we are basing a lot of this off of Cloudflare, but we do have our own solutions, and we're kind of also thinking in the background of what else we could add specifically for our segment of the internet, because Cloudflare is thinking about everything, right? They're a huge backbone of the internet today. So this is why. So the answer to that is no. We have things like the ability to fine-tune things. We have the ability to block out certain things that are a little bit easier to do on our end. And we hope to enhance all of this further and give as much flexibility as possible because we do know that, again, the answer is not as simple as block anything or let everything in. That's why we do have rungs to this ladder, but I think it should be more granular than that.
Amazing. There's two questions in the Q&A panel that are kind of closely tied together, which are how does the Kinsta bot management work with Cloudflare's bot fight feature, as well as we currently use bot management on Cloudflare and use custom rules. Is there any negatives or positives to use both?
So you should, I mean, you can use both, but there's no real reason to. It's much safer just to use one or the other. So I would say use ours because if this is the only thing you're using Cloudflare for, you can actually stop your subscription because we offer the exact same level of detail and then some. So I hope that answers the question. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sorry, I'm also trying to be quick, so and to be mindful of the time.
Absolutely. Do. Can I set different bot rules for my staging environment versus production?
You can, yes. It's all per environment, so you can absolutely do that. And if you're running an agency or just multiple sites, you can do this in bulk as well, so that should help you.
Excellent. There's lots of great questions. I'm trying to read them all really quickly. Do. Follow up. I can change the setting. Should I use relative as a guideline?
Well, I'm not sure what that means.
Yeah, Ross, could you add a little bit more to your question? I would love to learn a little bit more about what you're looking for. And
Yeah,
are there ways to stop the infinite loop issue that was brought up earlier? It sounds like your team introduced a rule to fix this. Was that on a certain layer of bot protection or for everybody?
Ooh, I won't be able to answer the layer question on that because unfortunately I know nothing about this. My team is the expert here. But the answer to that question is it is possible, but I mean it's a manual process. Like we need to understand what's going on and write a rule that stops that. So it's sort of a reactive process right now where we need to know that a loop is going on, and then we can find a way of fighting against it. This is why I think things need to get a little more granular because right now you can block bots and create exceptions, but it's a little difficult to do it the other way around, right? But because the landscape is changing so much, it's very difficult. And th this is part of like the genesis of this whole sort of feature that we have going on, which includes the cost component as well as this, is that the whole one of the issues with AI is that it's very smart, and that's a bad thing in this case because it can create infinite loops in a way that's hard to catch. It can mask itself if it really wants to by using so many IPs and so on. So it is a difficult task for now, but I think this is something that will be sorted out, just like bots, like regular bots were a problem before, and by and large, they were sorted out.
I noticed there's an allow typical WordPress automation setting on the new bot protection beta page. If that's not enabled, am I potentially blocking tasks from running properly?
Potentially, yes. So this is again, this is difficult to answer on a. I mean, you need to take a look at the site itself, and I would suggest testing it on staging first. Just because I mean, we need to think about hundreds of thousands of sites. So the end, I cannot guarantee that things won't stop working. So you do need to test it. Sites are so varied on our platform; it's very difficult to create a one size fits all solution. But again, this is why it's in beta. So if you find an issue, please do let us know because we will change things to make it work.
Incredible. What's your recommendation for an agency managing 20 plus client sites? Is there a way to
Mhm.
do this at scale?
Yes, as I mentioned, there you can set everything on an environment level and in bulk, so it should allow you to set things quickly. There are two components to this. One is knowing what to set it at, right? That's a more difficult question because you do need to discuss that with customers, or if you understand your customer websites to that level, you can make that distinction. But then actually implementing those rules should be quite easy.
Okay, is rate limiting website users a good strategy for not blocking bots outright, but keeping them from consuming too many resources at a time? That's a great
I,
question.
this is a great question. I'm I think I would come down on saying no. Again, it's very difficult to give a broad answer to, hundreds of thousands of websites. The, I'm the, I feel like my job is to try and make sure that no one needs to modify bot traffic at all, right? Because so for me, this is sort of a risk assessment where blocking bots is bots are a problem today, but they might be a solution to something in the future, and we just don't know, right? So ideally, as long as it's not causing a problem, I wouldn't block things in general because you don't know what the future holds is the safer bet. So my issue with rate limiting is kind of you're artificially creating a resource bottleneck, right? Because that means that even if your PHP workers would be healthy, you are still rate limiting folks. It would seem like your website is experiencing issues. So I would say no, but it does depend on, what your website does. So I would try not to do that.
Makes sense. Um, okay. Sorry, I just had a question and I got caught up in your answer and completely lost it. For the data side of things, is agentic traffic showing up in the data?
Oh, good question. So, yes, it's showing up in the aggregate data. Now, as I mentioned, the problem with AI traffic is that it's hard to identify, right? And I can't remember which one, but one of the large AI tools does identify agentic traffic specifically through the user agent, and it does differentiate its crawling and indexing from the user agent and so on. So it's being more and more apparent what something is doing, and this is kind of the trend I expect to happen because this is useful for both ends of the spectrum. It's useful for the AI tools, it's useful for the infrastructure providers, it's useful for the customers and the users of these tools as well. So it's definitely there in the aggregate data, but a lot of it will be hidden because we don't know it's agentic traffic. But this is getting better, I think.
I have another question that it's not from the Q&A panel, but just one from my own brain here.
Go
But
for it.
for those who are agency owners and they have to kind of explain bot traffic and resource consumption to non-technical clients, how would you recommend that they go about that without scaring them totally from bots or, oversimplifying it too much?
Okay. Um, that is a difficult question, but I think not scaring people here is the main issue. And again, I'm worried about scaring people because I fear overreaction in this case more than I fear underreaction because it is not a security issue. If this was a security issue, I would have the opposite frame of mind where there's no amount of preparation that's too much. And that's how we approach security. But here, it's very important not to scare people because for the time being, and I think for the foreseeable future, it really isn't scary. It's more of a nuisance than it is a huge issue on a global scale. Now, that doesn't mean that there aren't sites that are experiencing a proper huge issue with this today, right? So there are sites who are experiencing problems. There are sites who need to enable bot protection. So I'm talking about like the vast majority of our sites here. Under they are not under intolerable stress when it comes to resource usage. Um, so what I would highlight is the double-edged sword nature of bots, where we don't really want bots, we don't really want the traffic, but we do want our Google search rankings, right? But unfortunately, you can't have one without the other. So I feel that AI traffic will be kind of similar. Like AI has become a buzzword in the bad sense of the word as well, but there are a lot of good things coming out from that. And I think the key is ensuring that we protect ourselves from as much of the negative as possible, but reap all the rewards as possible for the positive side. So I think when it comes to educating customers on this, I would start with the fact that bots are good and they are also bad. So there is no single silver bullet answer to this, and we need to think about it appropriately, like Joel was outlining. And e-commerce sites are actually sort of in a difficult spot here because from a resource usage point of view, they are affected most. They also have the most to gain from AI traffic. So it really is a difficult decision, and it is possibly like a matter of balance, where how much do you let in, how much do you keep out to make sure your websites continue to function properly. I hope that answered the question. I think I went on a little bit of a tangent there.
It's all good. There's so many questions in the Q&A panel right now. I feel like we're doing like a rapid fire round. I'm going to do, I think, about two more, and then that might be all the time that we have in our 45 minutes, but I'll try to
Let's do it.
squeeze a third one in there as well. In Kinsta, the request breakdown area shows the type of traffic, that shows the types of requests. What does automated traffic mean?
So automated traffic, that is something that happens without human intervention, and there's a bunch of types of that. So agentic traffic would be one, but an API request would also be, in various circumstances, counted like that. So it's basically it tries to differentiate human-initiated requests by non-human initiated requests, and there are a bunch of non-human initiated requests that are not AI related. So that's kind of the distinction here.
Fabulous. What's the first action taken, or what should be the first action taken if my site is bogged down by bot traffic?
Block the bot traffic. That's kind of what I alluded to. So if you are having a problem, your website visits, your actual human visits, for the time being, for sure. And I think this will happen for a long time. Even if agentic traffic comes along, human visits are important and they will serve as the backbone of your site's success. So prioritizing humans should always, I think for now, be and I think in the foreseeable future, as in the next 5 years for sure, be the priority. And I think actually the barista example from Joel was a really good example for many ways, because I also know that there are coffee shops that serve Uber Eats customers. And while both of those are sales, if you just serve the Uber Eats customers, you're going to disadvantage the actual customers that walk in the door. So this is kind of the same thing that's happening with agentic traffic. You do not want the sideline, because at that point, like, they will be making money The sites will be making money off of agentic traffic, but you don't want to sideline the actual user that comes in the door, right? So it's a very apt example.
Okay. Last one. This one feels like a pretty large one. We recently
Okay.
had an aggressive AI scraper, 1.5
hmm
million requests from a Google Cloud IP that was bypassed as a verified bot.
hmm
Um, how does Kinsta plan to insulate client visit limits from being drained by these new hyper aggressive AI scrapers?
hmm That's a really good question. I can't talk about the specifics here because obviously these things are in the works in the background. But I don't want to under or overpromise on anything here. But it is an area of active research and active development, both at Kinsta and also at Cloudflare and other companies. So these are the types of bots where they're really not playing by the rules. And to some extent, like the larger ones where you think about Claude, I would be more okay with letting that happen. I'm not happy about it, but I do see a future where that's valuable. But the problem is that essentially anyone can write a tool that bypasses these rules with the given, if you have enough knowledge. And I don't want that to happen because that is what will lead to chaos. So I think there's two things that are happening. There's a lot of research happening on the Cloudflare level, and we are in constant contact with them. So we do talk about this of what they will be offering. Um, I'm hopeful that Cloudflare will offer good solutions because what makes their job a little bit easier is they are a huge company, right? So they see the internet truly as a backbone. They see it as a huge one organism. So they have a lot better overview of where requests are coming from. And even though like we're a sizable, huge WordPress company, but they see all internet traffic essentially nowadays. So they can make a lot better distinctions between bots than we could simply by just looking at our traffic, even though it is substantial. So working together with Cloudflare pretty closely is part of our strategy, but also figuring out better ways of fighting AI-based tools is actively on our roadmap and our development. And I think this is why folks don't usually consider this a security problem because what you're explaining basically is a DDoS attack, right? Even if it's not an attack per se, the result is a DDoS, so it's a DDoS. The reason this is not so much a security issue is that this is an arms race, basically, right? So it's people writing AI tools and then people writing tools to protect against the AI tools. This has been going on the internet for, ever since the internet began. So I expect this is going to get better as we get a better understanding of how these tools can be or how these tools can be mitigated, basically. So that's as far as I can go, but there is active work going on the Cloudflare level and our level in trying to make sure that you don't need to deal with this kind of attack. And this is also why we want to expose all the traffic that's not reaching your servers, because you'd probably be surprised at how much it is that both Cloudflare and we are protecting customers from. And we're glad to do it because, again, customers need to be focusing on their site success and not worrying about a random person's bot that's, sending 1.5 million requests.
Fabulous. Okay, thank you so much for the lightning round Q&A. We got lots accomplished there, and also so sorry to those who we couldn't get to. I appreciate you engaging. Before we wrap, a few things. The full report is available right now. The QR code to view it is on your screen or the URL right there. If anything you heard today made you want to look at your own traffic for Kinsta customers, like we had mentioned, bot protection is live now in your My Kinsta dashboard at no additional cost. And you will get the recording for this, plus the links to everything we mentioned in a follow-up email later this week that should be on Friday. But yeah, thank you everybody so much for spending your morning or afternoon or evening wherever you are with us. We really do appreciate it. If you found this useful, please share the report with your team or your clients. And if you have feedback on the session, we'd of course love to hear it. Okay, and that's it from us. Thanks again, and have a great rest of your day, everyone. Bye.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.